My name is Lucio Zago. I'm writing a graphic novel about Williamsburg. It's a comic book about my personal experiences and the neighborhood's history. I've been working on this book for the last 2 years. I'm still adding new stories, and if all goes as planned, it will be printed by early next year.
Having lived in the now trendy hipster neighborhood of Williamsburg for 23 years, Mr. Zago has a story to tell about the fast-changing community where once nobody wanted to live in. Through the graphic novel Williamsburg Shorts, and he resorted to crowdfunding.
It took me a while to make that decision. I was very intimidated by the amount of work that it takes to do that. But eventually I realized that I was close enough with my project.
About 300 miles away, in a plain-looking building in Pittsburgh, Terry Dankovich, a postdoctoral researcher at Carnegie Mellon University, also has an idea, the drinkable book, to pitch to the crowd.
My name is Terry Dankovich. I am a chemist. I invented a paper that purifies drinking water. After passing water through our filter, we found a reduction of greater than 99.9% in bacteria count, which is comparable to the tap water in this country.
To get the funding of the book production, Dankovich and her team launched an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign to raise money to test the papers and culturally appropriate filter designs in up to a dozen additional villages.
Crowdfunding is really popular in the US. Basically, even before long before we became a company or anything like that, people were like, you gotta do good crowdfunding. So it was kind of a natural choice.
Let's think about crowdsourcing light. So let's say we were in this office and all of the lights went out and it was super dark. Most likely, everybody would start turning on their cell phone, the light, and we would just start sharing the light. So we're like crowdsourcing our small bits of light to make the room all light up. So crowdfunding is crowdsourcing of funds. So getting small bits of funding from lots of different people to get that one big amount to come together to make that big idea happen.
In January 2008, Ruben launched the Indiegogo along with his 2 partners, and this became the very first platform of crowdfunding.
But at the time, eBay was doing pretty interesting stuff with auctions. YouTube was brand new about trying to democratize content. And we just thought, why not democratize access to capital? The internet is supposed to democratize everything, yet it hasn't really democratized capital.
Donation-based and reward-based crowdfunding have been the 2 most popular vehicles for entrepreneurs crowdfunding their startups and other projects.
So we have a template where you actually fill out the template and then you go live. So to fill out the template, usually you want to have a video, you want to have a description of your idea, you want to actually have a story to further describe the idea. How much are you raising? Why are you raising? What are you offering in return for raising different levels of money? We call that perks. So you'll have the different offerings, maybe a $25 perk, a $100 perk, a $500 perk. And then you have a target. How much are you trying to raise? Let's say 50,000 US dollars. And then you go live. And when you go live, now you want to start sharing it with the people you know.
According to Mass Solution, a research firm, the number of crowdfunding platforms grew from 0 in 2007 to 1,250 in 2014, and in 2016 will surpass the annual money committed by investors to venture capital funds globally. Hundreds of thousands of people with similar kindred spirits like Zago and Dankovich have shared their idea, from high-tech gadgets to food, to film industry, and even to the real estate. Crowdfunding brings those ideas to life.
I think the biggest reason is, it's basically a way to democratize access to capital. So what I mean by that is, before crowdfunding really took over, if I was an entrepreneur, I had only a few options. I could go to a bank to raise money, and I could borrow a loan, or I could go to a venture capitalist or an angel investor or a seed investor. But that's still an option today. But if you're not well plugged in or well connected in that community, it's extremely difficult to raise money. So now what happens with crowdfunding is I don't need to leverage these extremely powerful high net worth individuals like VCs or angels. I can basically use the internet and pitch my idea and leave it to the rest of the world to solicit funding.
Usually, the first fund entrepreneurs get is from people connected to them. On the other hand, the extensive social network has ensured that the crowdfunding projects can be seen by strangers around the world.
It is because of the ease of sharing and the ease of letting everybody know what you're doing and that you believe that somebody else should do it too, that people are able to then find out about their neighbors, their friends, or even strangers doing something, and then they want to do it as well.
For a given startup, that gives me a lot of information. So social media can be used not only for creating awareness and buzz about your company, but also to garner additional excitement and funding interest from these people.
It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to raise money, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a success, but it gives you a new opportunity, a new way to do things outside of the norm to see, what is possible.
In the first day after he put his project online, Zago achieved 1/3 of his goal. He set the goal to be achieved in 30 days, but got the money he needs in just 4 days.
To me, the idea that someone would come to this website, look at a project that does not exist yet, supports it and puts down money for something that she may receive in a year. So I didn't think that it was going to be that easy. It was a surprise.
This is Zago's first comic book actually. For him, the crowdfunding campaign is more about getting his name spread in the comic world.
To me, it was never really about the money. The money is important so that you can actually produce it, but it is much more important to me to create a fan base and to spread the word. I had no idea that the response would be coming from strangers all over the world, from people in the Philippines, in Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Austria, Italy, South America, Chile, and these are all people that I know their names, but I have no idea who they are, and they seem to be knowing everything about me. So it's exciting.
His attitude towards crowdfunding is echoed by Dankovich.
It's really just a way to connect with people who are excited about the project, and we often give email updates on how we're doing, and it's not just the one-time thing.
Following their crowdfunding push on Indiegogo, many medias and non-governmental organizations reached out to Dankovich and her colleagues in Folio Water, a company she co-founded to make the book available to people in need in places like Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
It enabled us to be able to do more work on the product and more work with asking individuals, so is this what you would want, would expect from this, how can we make it better?
Crowdfunding is not so much about money. Crowdfunding is a lot about generating awareness and buzz and word of mouth about your idea.
In connecting idea inventors and entrepreneurs with customers and funders, crowdfunding reshapes the process of ideas coming to the market and spurs a flooding of creativity and innovation never seen before. According to Ruben, Indiegogo now have over 600,000 campaigns from 223 countries and nearly $1 billion distributed to entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, philanthropists, and people in need.
So that's not a surprise, and we have lots of work left to do. But the thing that is a surprise is all the creativity of all the ideas on top of Indiegogo. The concept is totally within our imagination, but what people do and their creativity is beyond our imagination, for sure.
If an entrepreneur is trying to build a startup, and one of the things they need is funding. Now, unless the startup is doing something innovative, the chances of the startup actually succeeding is very low, right? So in this way, directly, by being able to raise funding for your startup, you're actually triggering some innovation.
There are risks though. Backers may not get the reward he was expecting. Funds are used for other purposes than what was initially disclosed. The professor took the example of Oculus, which raised $2 million on Kickstarter and eventually got bought up by Facebook for $2 billion, and this agonized its original backers.
So there are these risks where A, you don't listen to the crowds, you cannot implement their feedback, and you cannot execute their ideas, and B, you can alienate them in cases where they don't feel adequately rewarded from a successful sale.
Such risk might rise a little bit after the Title III of the Jobs Act or the Jumpstart Our Business Startup Act went into effect in the United States on May the 16th, making equity crowdfunding legal in the country. For the first time, startups will be allowed to raise funds through social media from ordinary people with an annual income of $100,000 for investment purposes.
The requirement now is, as long as you're making up to $100,000 per year in salary, you can invest up to 5% of your income in a startup and get equity. If you're making between 100 and 200, you can invest up to 10% of your income and get equity. Before, that bar was much higher. You had to be making $1 million or more. Now they've lowered the bar. So the rules and regulations have also dramatically enabled new investors to come in. And that, I believe, is a huge game changer.
One crucial element for equity crowdfunding to work is the trust between entrepreneurs and investors.
We don't have easy answers here. So where the government and the SEC needs to work together is to figure out answers to these questions about security and trust and accountability and responsibility with respect to funding and equity transfer.
Zago didn't just make $7,800. 318 backers pledged $15,475 to help bring his project to life.
The idea is to print the entire book on recycled paper, possibly with vegetable ink, and also adding, right now it's a black and white book, but I may be adding a set amount of pages in color. And also a sleeve, a protective sleeve of the book, elements that improve the quality of the book.
Using the money raised by crowdfunding, Dankovic and her team have been able to finance trips to Ghana, South Africa, Bangladesh, Honduras, and meet with users and see their experience with the theater, how they perceive it, and how to make it better to fit what these people need. And she's planning the next campaign.
We're actually going to do another crowdfunding campaign soon with a campaign we're going to be doing this summer in South Africa. We're going to be going to a school in rural South Africa where they have no piped water systems and they use irrigation water as their drinking water. So it's not very good quality.
Where will crowdfunding go? No one is sure yet. But one thing is certain. Accelerated adoption invites accelerated innovation, and crowdfunding is inviting people around the world to be part of the movement.